Welcome back to the FanSpeak Network and another episode of Sibling Showdown. And of course, we were talking short slate. We were talking underdog drafts for the conference championship week. And we're lucky. We are joined this week. Of course, I'm joined by my brother, Steve, each and every week, but we're also joined by Andrew Raub. So follow him at Rob23 on Twitter. And I had to ask Andrew, I gave him a big congratulations Sunday evening. He took down 5K in the Battle Royale streets. What was that, Andrew? Fifth place?
Yeah, fifth place.
Fifth place in the Battle Royale for 5K. Big Sunday for him. Congratulations again. And we're so excited to have you on. So thank you, Andrew. And tell us about what you told us, Steve and I, but tell us about your sweat Sunday and tell us what your early thoughts for championship week.
Yeah, well, first, thanks for having me on. Definitely excited and appreciated to be on the show. But yeah, the sweat's what we live for as a degenerate. I like to sweat. So it was nice, leading into that Chiefs and Bills game. Obviously, was in first by like 5 points. And I started to look through all these teams behind me, like who do I not need to go off? And Kelsey, Shakir, there was some Josh Allen's coming up. So I was watching this game, and of course, the Bills defense just let Kelsey do whatever he wanted. Right. So by halftime, I already knew unless Kelsey does nothing, like I'm kind of dead. So unfortunately, Kelsey did pass me, and the guy who had Kelsey, who won it, also had Shakir, and then Shakir, got a touchdown and had a few catches, so he passed me. And going into that fourth quarter, I was really, really watching this game closely because I had about 50 people behind me within like 3 points, and I knew if some things broke the right way, I'm going to lose serious money. So luckily that game, did end up slowing down a little bit and was able to stay in fifth, but it's all worth it for the sweat for sure.
Absolutely. You got to love those sweats, especially when they break that way. So again, congratulations. And we are so excited to have you on and yeah, do some live drafts with you. This is going to be fun. Steve, how are you doing this week? And I mean, I know you're excited for conference championship week, but what are you thinking?
Yeah, no. And congrats again to you, Andrew. And just why don't you shout out what your lineup was? Just so you can tell everyone.
Yeah. So it was a Baker double stack with Evans and Otten. I had Christian McCaffrey and Jahmyr Gibbs, and then I also had Romeo Doubs. So the difference between my lineup and the top one was Kelsey and Shakir instead of Otten and Doubs. But I probably, I went back and thought to myself, like, would I have done that? And maybe if I entered some more, I would have. I only had 16 lineups in it. But I really liked, the double stack with Baker. I had confidence Baker was going to sling the ball around. So I think process was right. Just unfortunately, it just ended up not being first. But shout out to Baker.
Yeah. Oh man.
I mean, it was just that second Kelsey touchdown. He doesn't get that,
Yeah, unfortunately.
No, I mean, that was a great lineup. Absolutely.
No, it absolutely was. I mean, we know to target against Detroit. I mean, we'll talk about that. The Detroit secondary, Detroit pass funnel, and you absolutely took advantage of that with the Baker stack. So yeah, that was a good call, Steve. I love hearing that lineup. I mean, I saw it on Sunday, but no, that's an awesome lineup. Because when you get McCaffrey first, then you're out on, Lamar and some of the top quarterbacks. So that made sense. Did you get Baker in one of the last rounds then, I assume? Fifth or sixth?
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look, but yeah, I'm pretty sure I drafted him in the fifth, and then took Dobbs, right behind him in the sixth. So yeah, it was. But I mean, you're right. Once you take McCaffrey, you can't get Jackson and stuff. So it kind of makes you pivot a little bit. But luckily, McCaffrey was the way to go at 1 too, because I feel like you're kind of against it a little bit when you draft at 1 because everything relies on you. Normally, we just take McCaffrey, but if McCaffrey gets injured, all your lineups are dead then at 1. Yeah. So it's luckily McCaffrey did work out for me at 1.
Right. Oh, absolutely. And Andrew, tell us where, I mean, I know you do content over at Sports Gambling Podcast Network, and then they can see your handle, but tell us what you do over there.
Yeah, so we'll do best ball content to them, a lot of underdog, a lot of DFS stuff, but predominantly best ball. So obviously throughout the year, you'll see me as soon as they draft or release the big board, which should be probably end of February, early March, I believe.
I thought the big board, isn't it usually around Super Bowl weekend?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be Super Bowl weekend.
Yeah. I didn't know if it was going to be that or a few weeks later. But as soon as they drop that, I got a lot of cash burning in my pocket now in the UD account. So I will be hot and heavy on that and releasing some content for it. But think over at a Sports Gambling Podcast, we're going to be doing a lot of short form content now. Just doing shorts, small podcast so people can see rankings, different stuff like that. But of course, you can find me on Twitter at arob23 here, and I will start posting a lot of stuff for best ball, how to do roster construction, probably do a 101 series on how to do best ball, because a lot of people are just starting to get into it. Best ball is still really small. I mean, we may follow a lot of people on Twitter and whatnot that do best ball, but a lot of my buddies don't, and they're hardcore into fantasy. So I think we're on the bottom 4 for best ball, and it's only going to go up from here.
Well, I love that, because all 3 of us are so into it, and that's how we obviously first got connected. And so then we're all Washington fans, so lots of bonding over here. So, all right, well, I'm going to bring over the DraftKings slate. We're just going to talk this through, and then we can apply it to Underdog, because ever since Steve's short slate win, we just love talking about short slates, and then they've obviously gotten a little smaller each week. So now we've got, of course, that's not what we want. The 2-game slate over here on DraftKings. And I'll go to you first, Steve. Why don't you talk about kind of your favorite quarterback stacks, kind of like what we do in the survey. And the survey will be up on fanspeak.com that you can check out with our favorite stacks and values and fades and contrarian plays and that kind of stuff. But, 1 or 2 quarterback stacks, what are you really trying to hone in on this week?
Yeah, I mean, to me, with only 4 quarterbacks, I'm really just kind of focusing on 2, and that's Lamar up top and Purdy. He's the 3rd highest quarterback at 6,400. Lamar, as we saw last week, he was the highest scoring quarterback, but to Andrew's lineup, we saw that if another quarterback gets close at a much cheaper rate, either in a draft format where you're taking them rounds later, or in this format, 1,000 plus more of savings, maybe that's the way to go. And that would be Brock Purdy. Same situation, targeting that Detroit secondary that has just been on a terrible run of giving up 350-yard passing games week after week. So those are the 2 that I'm looking to build around. Are there ways that maybe Mahomes get there? Yes. I mean, Goff could be playing from behind the entire game, but we know Detroit wants to run the football. Especially if they get near the red zone, they still could just rely on the run, even if Goff got them all the way down there. So I just like Lamar and Purdy and going to focus on those 2. And I know they're going to be the highest owned, but I think the ownership there is going to be pretty relatively even. Sure.
Andrew, I'll go to you. Are you kind of in lockstep with Steve on Lamar and Purdy, or are you going somewhere else quarterback stack wise?
I think because you have to take Jackson, and have such a higher salary based off of everybody else. Like, I actually prefer to go Mahomes in that game. I think I think Baltimore knows that a lot of Kansas City's success has come on the ground this year. I mean, we're not used to saying that with Mahomes, but Pacheco is awesome. So I think that they're going to really try to stop the run, and I think Mahomes is going to have to be Mahomes this game and do some magic. So I actually prefer taking Mahomes, but I'm lockstep with him on Purdy. Detroit secondary is not very good. I think that they're really going to focus on trying to get the ball to Ayuk and Kittle. Obviously, McCaffrey's going to get his, but I think Detroit knows that everything funnels through McCaffrey, and they're going to try to stop him, similar to what I think Baltimore is going to do with Pacheco. So I actually prefer to take Mahomes there instead of Jackson, but love Purdy this week. As long as they don't give him too much pressure, he seems to buckle a little bit under pressure. So we'll see what Dan Campbell and them are going to throw at him.
At least it's no rain in the forecast in San Francisco. So that's good, because that was obviously an issue. All right, favorite, we'll just hit a couple other highlights and then we'll go over to Underdog and rip through some Underdog drafts. Favorite values this week. Steve, I'll go to you first. What values are really standing out to you?
Well, we need to definitely see the Deebo Samuel situation, but Juwan Jennings, and honestly, even if Deebo plays, Juwan Jennings, we saw in the Eagles game, a similar situation, really terrible secondary. Juwan Jennings had a big catch, had a decent game. But if Deebo's out, as we saw last week, he got a lot of those targets that Deebo would typically get. So, 4,600, that's, cheaper than, any of the top guys, but he could get that kind of volume, and again, against this bad Detroit secondary. So the other value guys are, the Detroit value receivers, Reynolds and Jameson Williams. And then it's like, pick your favorite Ravens receiver. I'm not as high on the Kansas City value plays. I just think that in this situation, whether it's, Mahomes, if Mahomes gets there, I think it would be like last week. It's like through Kelsey, through Rice, through Pacheco. Maybe you get lucky and Watson or an MVS or Tony pops off with a big catch and touchdown and one or two others. But I would just rather hope that you're guessing on the right Ravens receiver or Jennings or the Detroit guys.
Okay. Andrew, same question to you. What values are you looking at in the context of DraftKings right now?
Yeah, Steve hit on it. Depending on what's up with Debo, really like Jennings. I'm also I like Craig Reynolds or Josh Reynolds as well. I think that he's going to see a decent amount of targets, probably 5, somewhere in that range. So I like that for him. But also the tight ends is what interesting to me on here, because the tight ends, Mark Andrews looks like he's going to play. I still like taking Likely. He's going to be limited. I can't see him not being limited. His injury was bad enough that they didn't think he was going to come back. And then next thing you know, here he is practicing. So I think he's going to be limited. I think people see Mark Andrews and I'm definitely throwing him in, but I like Isaiah Likely. He's very athletic, and Lamar Jackson knows that, right? I think they're going to try to play coy a little bit with Likely and make Andrews, run a lot of routes and stuff, but I like Likely. So I don't mind taking that, and he seems like a good value. He's the lowest one there. I did want to ask you though, do either one of you like Zach Ertz at all?
At 2,800, what are the reports? He is going to be active, right? They need him as the second tight end, correct?
Right.
Yeah. He starts off on the practice squad, but I think every expectation is he's signing to the active roster. Probably
it's kind of tempting.
Tomorrow.
I'm going to be honest. It's kind of tempting, just that pedigree, right? And that just being a vet, that he could step right in at 2,800. What are your thoughts, Steve? But thank you for bringing that up, Andrew.
Yeah,
what are your thoughts, Steve?
And let's keep in mind, it's not like he was bad this year playing with Arizona. He was getting, he had a game against San Francisco. He had 6 catches, 10 targets, 53 yards week 4. And that's with, Josh Dobbs at quarterback. So, I think it's definitely worth taking a shot. And especially, as we saw last week, 2 tight end builds, and especially how Otten was like the cheap, Otten was the cheap play. Him and Shakir, were kind of around the same price range. Those were the good cheap plays, where, people kept firing at the cheap Chiefs receivers and cheap Ravens receivers, and those were bad plays. But it was like Otten as the cheap play, and you could play him with like Kelsey or Kittle as the regular tight end. And it's kind of the same premise with Likely as well, because Likely is lower price and not going to be near as owned as the other tight ends like Andrew was mentioning. So I like that. But if you need the savings,
like you said, 10 targets against San Francisco, these 49ers. So that's interesting.
Yeah, probably only get 4 target, 3 to 5 targets. So 4 would probably be kind of the area you should be looking at. But yeah, they signed him for a reason. He's got experience. He should kind of fit right in. Probably have, maybe get a red zone look. And yeah, if he gets, 3 catches, 30 yards and a touchdown, 2,800 as your flex play, that could be huge.
Can't imagine many people are going to him there ownership wise either.
No, and I think more people would play like Noah Gray with the same kind of premise, like a second tight end who's going to get 3 to 5 targets, maybe a touchdown, and hope for that. I wouldn't mind Ertz over that. We just know, what Ertz can do. So
right, yeah. All right. Any other lineup construction? Are you going like heavier on one game? Not really forcing in 2 tight ends. I know I'm open to 2 tight ends. We kind of touched on that. Andrew talked about how many tight ends there are to like, Likely being one of them. Steve, any kind of lineup construction stuff that you're focusing on, and then we can go over to Underdog.
Yeah. So I think in general, especially if Debo is out, and then there's kind of only the 2 alpha receivers of St. Brown and Ayuk, and then you kind of say, are Rice and Flowers in that camp or not, especially given their potential matchups of Humphrey and Snead. So I'm going to say most of my builds will probably only have 3 receivers, and I'll either have a flex of second tight end or third running back, depending on how I can fit it. And whether that's a cheaper guy like a Justice Hill or one of these cheaper tight ends, or maybe 3 good running backs or 3 good tight ends, and just kind of playing it there and go really cheap at receiver or cheaper at receiver and just say, hey, you look at last week, the only 2 receivers hit over 20 points, and that was Mike Evans and Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah.
Well, Amon-Ra's on this slate again, but he was 8,200. Jahmyr Gibbs, same team, essentially had the same number of points at about 2,000 less. So if you're playing a flex play, and a Gibbs or a Pacheco is your flex, and he's 2,000 less, who do you want?
Yeah. No, I think there could be more opportunity costs at tight end than a receiver, because you really just feels like you're dodging those two, top end receivers. Andrew, what are your thoughts on that and any other lineup construction things?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with Steve on the wide receivers here. I do like taking the top three guys, the Amon-Ra, Ayuk, and Rice, in my opinion. I've read an interesting stat on Flowers today that out of all the Baltimore Ravens wide receivers, the defense that the Chiefs are going to play, he actually has averaged the worst on the team for yardage. So I kind of stay away from Flowers a little bit this week. Not full fade, but just fading a little bit. So I like to take all the wide receivers and then fill out the team, based off of that. That's why I like taking likely and stuff, because I need to save some money elsewhere. But yeah, I really like dominating the wide receivers this week. I think that we're going to see that kind of happen, because we've already alluded to it. San Francisco and Detroit both like to run the ball a lot. I think a lot of people are going to lean into that. I'm going to try to fade the public on that a little bit and just take the wide receivers there. But I think it works on Underdog a little bit more than it does here. But I mean, you can definitely get a little different in DraftKings.
Absolutely. Well, I think we covered a good kind of primer. And again, check out our survey on FanSpeak that'll break down all these things in a little more detail. But you guys now, I'm switching screens over to Underdog. Why don't you, Steve, you talk about kind of how you're looking at the Underdog slate, and let's get Andrew's thoughts on the Underdog drafts and how this short slate applies to Underdog. So how are you applying all this short slate information to Underdog? Steve, I'll go to you first and then Andrew.
So the interesting thing is there's two different types of games on Underdog right now, the 3-person drafts and the 4-person drafts. I definitely like the 3-person drafts more. They're definitely a bit more fun. I mean, obviously every team's going to be a little bit better, but I just have preferred that so far. But I think either way you look at it, you're doing the same sort of thing. You're taking McCaffrey at 1. You just can't get away from that. And Lamar, I think, needs to go in the first round, or typically, and then it's like, the receivers, like Andrew said, because there is a huge drop off at receiver. So receiver is a huge priority here. And so if you get two, and the thing with Underdog here is you have to have 2 of them. So if you find a way, if you have the 3rd pick and you can get Ayuk and Rice or Amon-Ra and Ayuk or something like that's not a bad way to start. Or 4th pick, depending if you're in the 4-man draft or whatever the case may be, because after that, we're talking a massive drop off, especially if Debo's not back, or if Debo's only back and he's like a decoy. So I like prioritizing receiver, but if you have the 1-1, I think you gotta take McCaffrey. There's just no way around that.
Okay, Andrew, let's get same thoughts from you, like how you're handling, let's start with these like 3-man drafts, for instance, kind of who you're prioritizing, positional scarcity, that kind of stuff. How are you kind of handling the scope of these shorter drafts?
Yeah, it really depends on how it falls to me. As far as quarterbacks concerned, in both of these contests, 3 or 4 people drafts, I'm kind of waiting on quarterback. I'm just letting whoever falls to me. Normally in the draft, you can tend to look at the positional, and I haven't found that most people want to snipe in these. I think it's because it's smaller. So if I start taking, Detroit players, usually nobody takes golf, right? So I feel like you can be lucky enough to not get sniped too many times in these contests. But yeah, I mean, I usually like to knock out the positional players. I feel like that's where the difference is going to be made up. I don't see Lamar outscoring all these quarterbacks by like 10, 15 points. So if that was the case, maybe I would change my mind. But I don't really see that happening. So I like to take the positional players and make sure I'm stout there before I really worry about the QB. With that said, though, I mean, like I do obviously want to be exposed to Lamar Jackson as well. So I'm not fading him, but I usually don't take him unless he falls back to me in the 2nd or the 3rd round. If that happens, I'll take him, but I'm not going to take him in the 1st round normally.
Okay. And then how are you handling the flex play in this? Because, I mean, I think I've seen a lot of people do 2 tight end. Have you been doing, since the receivers a little thinner, have you been doing more 2 tight end, 2 running back? How have you been handling that?
if I can go Amon-Ra, Ayuk, and Rice, I will do that because I don't think there's going to be many rooms that allow that to happen. So if I can do that, I do want to be different that way. If not, I have done a lot of two tight end builds, not too many 2 running back builds. I don't know. I like the 3 wide receiver or the 2 tight end better. Again, I think the running backs, I think a lot of people want to try to get as many as possible, get the 2 you can. I kind of want to fade that and be a little different. But with that said, though, of course, it's nice to get, McCaffrey and Gibbs. And I actually kind of want to fade Pacheco a little bit. I alluded to that. I think the Ravens are going to sell out to stop him and make Mahomes do Mahomes things. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, I mean, I'm completely fine going 2 tight end, especially if there's somebody else in the room who goes 2 tight ends and you can go 2 tight ends and kind of squeeze out one of those teams to have to take the last remaining guy. I feel like that's fine. And it's been working out a little bit better at the beginning of this week because we didn't know what was happening with Mark Andrews.
Right.
So a lot of people didn't really want to take Mark Andrews. Now that we think he's probably going to play, that completely changed the dynamic of what has happened with the tight ends as well. So, if there's 3 of us in a 4-man room, we can really squeeze out 1 guy on tight ends.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And obviously there are all different price points that you can use. Of course, use code FANSPEAK. You can get 100% deposit bonus if you're new to Underdog. But whatever draft you get in, I believe a lot of the different price point ones are the 4-man drafts. Is that correct, Andrew?
A lot of them are 3, I believe. I think there is only one that's 4, and that's the Brawl.
The Brawl. Okay, then the 3-man ones, there's all different price points. So find the ones that you like. But yes, the Knockout is the 3. This is the second one they've offered because God bless Underdog. They keep just bringing them out, and I love them. We keep filling them, and I absolutely love it. But the Knockout is the 3-man rooms, and then the Brawl is the 4-man. So we're going to do both because they go so quick and they're so darn fun. So let's do both. We're going to do the Knockout first, which is the 3-person. So I will hit enter. Yeah, I think it started, the first ones they offered, the Knockout one and the Brawl one were $5 price points, a little bigger pool of people. And then this is a $10 price point, a little smaller pool. But yeah, this is the 3-man, and we have 3 and 4. Oh, good. Andrew, you're in here with us. Okay. I was like, I didn't know if that's awesome. I love it. Sorry. I didn't know. I should have counted us down. I apologize.
No, it's okay. I just started entering. I have like 5 going on right now because I wanted to make sure we could get in together. So,
oh my God. I love it. I didn't even think, I'm so out of the best ball practice, like doing a show with, somebody. So I totally apologize for that. Yeah. So, good job. I was like, TD King, I know him. So this is great. We can each talk about our strategies that we do here. So this is awesome.
The other thing I wanted to hit on real quick, if I can, is so at the end of drafts, a lot of people were fading Debo and all that. Actually, I don't mind taking him because you can do a free swap ranking. You can go to your swap rankings and change it out. If nobody takes Jennings, I definitely am taking Debo. Yeah. If I'm the last pick and both of them are there, I'm taking Debo if he plays. If not, you can easily swap in Jennings. Same thing, right. With Mark Andrews and likely at the early part of the week, I was doing that. Like you have that ability to do that. A lot of people don't realize you can because a lot of people are only playing on mobile. Mobile, you can't do it until the game start. When you're on desktop, you can go in and swap those rankings. Just so I don't know. It's something that people should know about, and a lot of people don't. The other thing would be, in these 3-man contests, if everyone takes their quarterbacks and you don't have to take it till round 6.
Exactly.
Do not take your quarterback until round 6. You can load up on positional players. So, I mean, people need to think about that. And I see a lot of people not. So I always like to educate. It's good if we have a good best ball crew to draft with.
Absolutely. 100%. I've seen a lot of people waiting in general on quarterback. I've seen Lamar go early and then just a huge waiting. I one time was like, yeah, I'll take whoever. And I was able to get Purdy in like the second to last round. So Steve, what do you want to do here? Andrew took Amon-Ra, kind of speaking to his point. What do you want to do here with back-to-back picks?
Yeah. I mean, I would probably take Lamar because otherwise you're letting Lamar, go all the way back.
We'd get it back to Andrew.
Or if he
Andrew's
passes,
like, if you want to,
Yeah, so if you pass on him, I might.
But then I would probably go Ayuk. Because I think receiver is just so thin.
All right, Andrew, sorry that we couldn't get your Amon-Ra Ayuk one there. I know you talked about that as a key, start, but you talked about that too. Amon-Ra Rice.
I mean, you'll see as this goes on, right? Like after Samuel or after Flowers, unless you want to take Samuel, you get squeezed at wide receiver. The next best is Jameson Williams, Jennings, so squeezed. So it's just hard to not want to take those guys.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So Steve, coming up at 9, and which obviously, it's such a short, just 3-man, obviously. So we'll be coming back around quickly. And that's what's so fun is these go so quickly. So we went Brandon.
The double tight end there.
Yeah. Andrew went Rice. Then it went Kelsey Kittle at number 1. Wow. And Andrew's back on the clock, and we'll be up at 9 and 10. So what are you thinking, Steve, as we wait for Andrew's decision?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. You put me in a hard spot here because Pacheco's still sitting there and he normally isn't. You know what? I'm just going to do it. I'll just take him. I don't really like Pacheco, but
I mean, hey, it could be a hedge build, if you,
I would do Gibbs.
Yeah. I was just thinking Gibbs in this one. So we have 1-1-1 so far, Lamar, Gibbs, Ayuk. And then, we talked about do you want to go over to, they did the tight end. So I feel like everything's kind of a reach right now. What do you think?
Yeah. This is a tough spot. I hate this
I don't
spot.
like this. I don't like Flowers that much either, but 10 seconds. Or we go David. No, I don't know. We got to pick something.
Do
quick.
Laporta.
Okay, too late.
It's tough, right? Like, you get to that point,
especially when you're talking it through. Obviously, we wouldn't have taken Devo Samuel disclaimer that early at all, but we were talking it through, and I didn't have something queued. So shame on me. You should always have stuff queued. So I should have queued Laporta, Montgomery, Zay Flowers, even though we didn't love them, and then taking one of those. So my mistake on that one, but it's okay.
Laporta and Montgomery were the two I had started. So you were talking that through, and I'm like, all right, well, whichever one they take, I'll just take the other one.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Steve, come on. You got to be quicker, and I got to be better at queuing. The sibling fights here. All right. Yeah. Well, Steve, these will be our last 2 picks at 15 and 16. What do you like here? Andrew's coming before us, obviously.
Yeah. How do you guys feel about the Hill and Edwards here?
I'm leaning Justice Hill.
Yeah, personally. I lean Hill.
I have been as well, but I know Gus Edwards was hurt towards the end of that game. I think they kept him out because they had the game in hand, but he's the goal line guy. Like if he scores 2 touchdowns in this game, he's a difference maker going here. So it makes me kind of want to take that route.
Well, if you don't have Lamar, definitely Edwards has better.
Yeah. You know what? I think I'm going to do it. I don't have many Edwards, but it game theory wise, if he scores 2 touchdowns, there's not too many people at the left that are going to score 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So it goes against him. It goes against Andrew. But do you like Justice Hill and then doing one of the Ravens tight ends, Steve, or what do you?
Yeah, I like doing Likely and Hill.
Okay, so you like Likely over?
Yeah, I would just prefer that. Andrews could be the guy. He could be fully back, but go with Likely. He's, I think he's just safer in this type of situation. And
before our show, I was honestly have been leaning. Honestly, early in the week, I was leaning Likely, and then lately, I've been leaning more Mark Andrews. But I see the case for both. So, quite honestly, I want exposure to both. So, obviously, we'll put in a sub if Debo is out. We talked about, did Jennings end up going in this one? Let's see. I'd have to look at that.
I don't know if you can go back and look at it now.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I don't think he did. I don't think that
I don't think he did. Yeah.
So for you, that's amazing. That's exactly what I was talking about. Is you can go in to that individual draft, swap out the swap rankings, and then you get a free Jennings if Debo's not there.
Right. Exactly. So it all worked out. So Andrew, are you able to read what your team was? Since I
here, let me go back to completed. So let's see. I had Goff, Amon-Ra, Laporta. That's my stack.
Nice.
And then had Rice and Gus Edwards.
Nice. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I like that. So we are Lamar, Gibbs, Justice Hill, Ayuk, Debo, and then we can sub in Jennings if he's out, and Isaiah Likely. So we kind of got a big Baltimore stack going on with the 249ers and Gibbs. So I'm kind of comfortable with that too. Two different ways to approach it, but I like it. Did we see when did you take off in the last round?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And
I just waited because you guys had Jackson and he took Purdy. So I just waited. I actually took off over Mahomes, even though I had Rice, but I double stacked him with Laporta and Brown. So I kind of wanted to do that. But yeah, it kind of sucks always leaving Mahomes on the board because I do think Mahomes is going to have a good game.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Yeah. No, I know. And you mentioned that. And so you had Rice, but because you double stacked, that's why you leaned into Goff on that one.
Yep.
Yeah. No, it makes total sense. I was just going to say, what round did Purdy go? I've been trying to pay attention to that because I initially in the week was taking him earlier, and then I was like, wait a second, all the quarterbacks after Lamar seem to be falling. Do you remember what round he went?
I think 4th.
Yeah. Okay. Well, now we're going to do the 4-person draft, and so we'll get a little bit different nuances, but these go so fast, so we might as well do both styles. And so the 4-person is the Sunday Brawl. So we will jump in that one. So Andrew, are you ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I'm clicking enter now. Okay. It's filling. Perfect. So how did your other drafts go, Andrew, since you were ripping a couple at the same time? You did a great job considering you were ripping multiple at both.
Yeah, I was drafting 3 of them. I put 2 on auto draft. I kind of like to do that just because I like to see what the computer will give me every now and again. I like to hand build personally, but every now and again I'll do a couple autopilots and see what happens.
Yeah, very nice. Okay. So
I do see a friend of the program or friend of SGPN program, Team Ramrod. He must be watching here.
Love it. Well, thank you for watching. Thank you for joining us. That's awesome. Very nice. Okay. So yeah, we've got Andrew at the 1 spot. We are number 3. And Ramrod is number 2. So yeah, I assume, once this thing gets underway in 20 seconds that Andrew might be taking McCaffrey.
I will. Yes, I will be taking McCaffrey.
It's just how do you get away from that? I mean,
yeah, right. Like you just can't.
Well, you can only get so many number 1 picks, and he pretty much, some weeks
his ceiling's just so off the charts. I mean,
it's ridiculous. Yeah. So Steve, if ASB goes at number 2, I know Ramrod might be listening, but we could take Lamar again. This would, which he did, or we could do something different. I mean, I'm fine with Lamar again, quite honestly, but I'm fine if you wanted to try to do something different as well.
We could do something different. I would actually prioritize Ayuk here again.
Okay.
Receiver's just even thinner in a 4-man draft.
Oh yeah, big time. Yeah. Anybody that you want me to cue, Steve, after Dim Sum goes at 4-5?
I mean, Rice or Pacheco, I think, or one of the top 2 tight ends. Kelsey Kittle.
I'm gonna do much better about queuing this time. Okay, so they took Lamar, Pacheco. So we could do kind of what Andrew said and do Rice and get the Ayuk Rice since it does thin out.
I like that. I mean, it is. Yeah. Particularly if Debo's not back, it is so thin.
Yeah. So, and again,
I agree with Andrew. I'm not a fan of Zay Flowers this week, and that's why we had that issue last time. It was like, Zay Flowers is sitting there with Lamar, but it's like, he's not my favorite.
Right. I'm gonna leave the tight ends queued. Gibbs just went to Team Ramrod. Good pick there. So we do not have, so I'm just going to queue up the running backs that I know we are willing to take. Obviously, queued up Kelsey. Yeah, so Andrew took Kelsey. Is he going to do double tight end? What is he going to do?
I want to, but I and I don't have a lot of Flowers. I feel like I should expose myself to Flowers a little bit.
Right. No, it's good to mix it up.
It's just like if you don't take Flowers, you really just you're relying on one of those other guys to do it. So I'm going to take Flowers just out of necessity.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's what's harder in the 4-man is the receiver gets so thin in the 4-man.
Right. So Andrew started McCaffrey, Kelsey, Flowers, and then we started Ayuk, Rice, And unfortunately, Ramrod did take Kittle. So tight ends are gone. Of the,
So
we
you
could
should have
do
Laporta
Laporta.
and Likely. Yeah.
Yeah. We still have Laporta likely, and then we have those running backs. Steve, do you want to grab a running back since it's thinned out? I know you still like David Montgomery.
I'd take a tight end here because the guy
Which one?
behind it. I go Laporta.
Okay, there we go.
Because this
Yeah,
guy
that's right. He does
doesn't
not have a tight end. Good call.
And sure, he could double up running back, but
yeah, Laporta just came back and he had 11 targets.
Yeah.
I mean, that's absurd. So
That-
I mean,
yeah.
he's going to get his.
Yeah, absolutely. So we started Ayuk, Rice, Laporta, and they went Debo Samuel, Justice Hill. So did you want to grab David Montgomery here, Steve?
Yeah, I don't mind that.
Okay.
I just really hope we're capturing the touchdowns of Detroit with
Since we
Laporta and
didn't,
Montgomery.
we didn't.
Yeah, Dan Campbell, if you could not put in Craig Reynolds to get a touchdown, that'd be nice. I mean, the random he had one carry,
was that?
1 yard,
Yeah,
and 1 touchdown. I mean, come on.
That was that was so tilting. That was crazy.
The pain is still real.
Yeah. I mean, so basically 4 picks away, we'll be up again at 19 and 22. So Andrew's back on the clock now. So yeah, no other quarterbacks have gone, just Lamar.
I am going to take Patrick Mahomes.
And he grabbed Mahomes with Kelsey. There we go.
Oh, I think I'll take Jennings because I really don't think Debo's going to be effective.
Okay. So he's got Jennings, and then we'll be back up in 1. So let's see. We can let quarterback fall to this because, as you can see, the 4 spot has quarterback. So we can take that at 22. The question then becomes, Steve, do we want a second running back, a third receiver, or do we want Likely as a second tight end? I mean, there are still guys like, the Detroit receivers, Beckham.
Yeah. I think, I don't know. I kind of like Likely above them, but I don't mind Josh Reynolds or Jameson Williams. But we already have 2 Detroit guys, so I think I'd take Likely over them just because we have 2 Detroit guys already, and Purdy's going to be our quarterback. So it's not like we're going all in on Goff.
I mean, we could be different.
No, Goff's gone.
Oh,
Purdy is our quarterback.
Oh, that's right. Goff was taken right before us. That's right. Okay. That is right. Thank you. All right. So that makes our choice for us.
Yeah. But I mean, that's what's
fine.
Nice. Once Andrew took Mahomes, it's like we were set for any quarterback, Mahomes, Purdy, or Goff.
Right.
So.
Right. And Andrew's up with his last pick now.
I hate this last pick. I mean, you look at the board. It is ugly. I don't want to double up on Baltimore wide receivers because I don't think that they're going to kill it. But there's not really anything else to go off of. I mean, what are you going to do here? Unless I go weird and get like Dalvin Cook and hope that maybe he gets some work again. But I think he only got in there because they were killing the
I like scrolling down to Beckham. I don't know. I just think that was so weird that he didn't get usage, it was super. I don't know. That did not make sense to me. The whole talk was that he was going to get more work in the playoffs, and then he only ran like 30% of the routes. It was very, very odd. So yeah, that one was a head scratcher to me.
I think you need to refresh.
Oh, okay. I was going to say,
it's weird when you're on the computer, you have to refresh it or it won't show up.
Okay, there we go. There's the Sunday Bra. Okay, so our lineup ended up being Purdy, Montgomery, Ayuk. We did get the stack, Rice, Laporta, Likely. And we talked about the 2 tight end thing. Do you mind reading your draft again, Andrew?
Of course. So I took Mahomes to pair with Kelsey, bringbacks of Zay Flowers and OBJ. Hopefully one of those can at least have a good game. And then the San Francisco stack of McCaffrey and Juwan Jennings.
I like it. Well, this has been super fun, guys. I mean, and by the way, Andrew, I hope we can, as best ball season starts next month and then ramps up after the NFL draft, I hope we can do plenty of shows with you on both of our channels, because it's fun doing drafts with you.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I'll hop on anytime you guys want me to. Love talking best ball, and man, I can't wait for season long best ball.
Oh,
I did
Oh yeah.
introduce my a couple buddies to best ball right at the end of best ball season. They got
Uh-huh.
hooked, and now they're playing countless amounts of playoff best ball. And
Yeah.
I told them just wait till you can start drafting all these big board and best
yeah.
ball mania. It is a slight addiction, I will admit, but I mean, there's worse things to be addicted to, right?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
heck yeah, it's so fun. And I mean, I know we all had a good advance rates in the playoffs, but you had what, 8 semifinal teams and 2, how many finals teams did you have?
Seven semifinals, one final. So I got one in.
Okay.
Was a good sweat. The team unfortunately did not do very hot. I mean, I did cash, a little over 2 grand on that one
Yeah,
team,
absolutely.
so that
Yeah.
was nice. But man, it's just the sweat you had until it all started to fall apart was something like unlike any other. It is nice to be in such a large where you can win $1,000 or $3 million.
Yeah.
It was a cool sweat to say the least. So I was
Yeah.
very thankful to be in the top 0.1% of people to make it in there. And
Exactly. It's
now I got
hard.
to
People
claw.
don't realize how hard it is. It
Oh,
is hard.
extremely hard. Yeah,
It's
very hard. And
but
now
that's
you
what
got to
makes it
claw.
so fun, you know? And
Yeah, you got to
but
claw and scratch yourself, back to the final again. So it's I saw a lot of people talking about pod luck, and I think
yeah.
that is a serious thing, pod luck. But honestly, if you just construct good teams for week 15, 16, 17, I think
Yeah.
that's honestly where you'll set yourself apart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And the nice thing about Underdog is they're always innovating, always adding different types of contests. Obviously they did the Eliminator, then the weekly winners and that kind of stuff. So there's always different formats that you can play
Mhm.
with within the best ball structure. I would love to see them do, and I know people talked about this during the pod luck thing, where something where you make it to playoffs and then playoffs become cumulative scoring. You know what I mean? Like I think that would be pretty interesting. Just there would be a lot of extra nuances to figure out. And, you never know. They might add something like that. But, I want a little bit of everything and, and certainly like to do some of the single entry type contests too. So yeah, we were so excited to talk about best ball here. You are so excited. So hopefully we'll do plenty more shows. But any final thoughts for these like underdog drafts, Andrew, before we get out of here?
No, I would say, don't go too heavy on them, because I do think a lot of lines are going to be duplicated. So, you don't want to invest too much in these because I feel like, you're not going to, I don't think there's going to be one team that honestly wins it. It's going to be tough to do that. But again, like save your money because regular baseball season right around the corner. And I do like some of your thoughts on what Underdog can do to even improve their already awesome product. They do have a
Amazing. Yeah.
Discord that has those idea
Mhm.
threads
Oh,
in
I'll
it,
have
so
to
you can
jump
go in
in
there.
there and
Oh,
say
yeah,
that one
please do.
again. Yeah, I
It,
really
it,
like
it-
that idea. Yeah.
yeah, and
Uh,
they will comment back because I put a few things in there that I wanted to see happen, and they put they'll comment back and say like, hey, that's in the works, or hey, we
yeah,
can't do it because of X, Y, and Z. So they are open to all ideas. So it's pretty cool.
I love
Yeah.
it. They're such a great company. Steve, final thoughts for these underdog drafts?
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with Andrew. Just with the way it is, there's going to be a lot of dupes, duplicated stuff. So don't go too crazy, and maybe focus more in the smaller field stuff like the 3,000-4,000 entry things, or 3 max type things. If you are doing, want to do multiple contests, but they're fun. Just a good way to look at it. And yeah, it sounds like the big board will be right around Super Bowl, and that's a great way to get started. Typically, there's rookie sophomore soon after that.
Yeah.
Other things coming. So yeah, it gets exciting.
Yeah, and we of course do NFL draft coverage on FanSpeak. You can simulate the 2024 NFL draft with On the Clock for free. If you want to upgrade to Ultimate GM, you can simulate free agency through the NFL draft with no ads, obviously, and then have upgrades for your On the Clock mock draft experience. But it lets you see different scenarios play out. So be sure to check that out. And Steve will be updating his big board for On the Clock, but then we'll have to apply that, Steve, to obviously the best ball cycle.
Yeah.
And hopefully I'm really looking forward to diving into the rookies and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
it's going to be a fun season for all of us. So so this has been super fun. Thank you again, Andrew, and thank you guys for joining us. So for Andrew, for Steve, I'm Meg. Good luck in the streets, and we will see you next time.